Hey guys, my name is Kristin Hanes and I run the website called The Wayward Home. And this website is all about how to be a nomad, whether that's in a camper van, RV, sailboat, or tiny home. And I split my time between a van in the US. We have a Sprinter van right now that we're currently DIYing. Before that, we had a Chevy Astro van that we lived in for several years. And we also have a sailboat that's down in Mexico. So in this presentation, we're going to be talking about a topic that I get tons of questions on over on my website and on my email list, which is how the heck do you insure a camper van? There's so many different options and rules and different types of insurance, so it could be pretty overwhelming. And actually, a lot of people have had trouble insuring vans, especially DIY camper vans. And we're going to go into that and just why people have so much trouble. And I've had two vans and I've insured them completely differently. So I'm also going to tell you about the two different ways I've insured my van. One of them was that Astro that wasn't very built out. The second one, a Sprinter, a way more expensive van that has more expensive parts. So that's it. Let's get into the presentation. All right, so this presentation is all about how to insure a camper van, a question that vexes a lot of people, especially DIY van builders. So in this presentation, we're going over why DIY camper vans are so hard to insure, the types of insurance options out there, tips on getting camper van insurance, and companies you can try for insuring a DIY camper van. And I'll tell you what I did with my two vans. And I also wanted to mention that at the end of this slide presentation, I'm going to bring on Austin from Romy. This is what I use for my Sprinter van, and it's a pretty new company that also works in conjunction with Outdoorsy. But Romy is great for insuring DIY camper vans, custom builds, and even RVs. And we'll go over a little bit more in depth what that insurance plan is when I bring on Austin. But first, I want to talk a little bit about why are DIY vans so incredibly hard to insure. So one of the reasons is there's lots of unknowns for an insurance company. For example, if you have a Class B RV or even a custom build, insurance companies know exactly what went into that van, the components. It's usually registered as an RV. They know all about what exactly went into that build. I did talk to one insurance agent named Zachary Schneiderman, and he said custom built vans take on a manufacturer's liability so that, they have a liability insurance in case something goes wrong with one of their vans. But when you build out a van, you're taking on all this responsibility yourself, which is why sometimes it's kind of hard to get a van insured. And some other reasons why is because if you're modifying a van and you're not a professional builder, insurance companies might wonder, what's the quality of the workmanship? How safe is your build? Did you take weight distribution and things like that into consideration when doing your build? A lot of people just throw together vans and they're not thinking about these things. And so the insurance company has to take on more risk, which is why some insurance companies will just drop you or really jack up your rates. And that can be quite a bummer when trying to figure out how to insure your van. So there's a few different types of insurance options you can go for. There's auto insurance, there's RV insurance, personal article insurance, and DIY camper van insurance. And I'm going to go over a few of these and what I did. So auto insurance, and you'll see a picture here of me in my first van, my Chevy Astro, which I lived in for 3 years with my partner, Tom. Auto insurance is what I had on this van. I had Geico. It was really cheap. I didn't do much to this van. I barely modified it. We did put in a fridge and a solar system and a roof vent, but we didn't permanently modify anything inside this van. It had a folding down bench seat in the back that was our bed, but we didn't have anything permanent in there like a toilet or a kitchen or anything like that. So there's no way this van would even remotely qualify as an RV. So I kept it just on the auto insurance plan for those 3 years, and it maybe was 40 or 50 bucks a month. So pretty affordable. This is a good option if you didn't use tons of expensive materials to convert your van. Maybe it's a minivan like this, and maybe it has just a fold out bed. This is a great option if you didn't spend thousands of dollars because an auto insurance policy isn't going to cover the costs of all your materials and expenses. If you put in like a very expensive bed system or expensive solar system, this is not going to cover any of those components. It's just covering the value of your vehicle as is. So if you do want to go this route, this can work really well in conjunction with a personal articles insurance plan, which covers everything inside of your vehicle that you purchased. So this can be great. I actually did not have a personal articles plan. I should have, but that that could cover things like your camera or, your computer, any expensive gear, outdoors gear you have inside and outside of your van. So that could be a good option that keeps everything pretty affordable, and you won't have to prove your van is an RV in any sense. Another option out there is RV insurance, and this works really well if you have a custom build or a Class B camper van. There's all kinds of policies out there that'll cover these kinds of builds. It can be a little harder to get an RV insurance company to insure a DIY build. It can happen, but way more rare. But if you do have some kind of custom or Class B, like a Storyteller Overland, a Winnebago Revel, you can just simply get RV insurance. So some companies, but not all, require you to be registered as an RV to get this insurance. So some people will build out their vans on their own, and then they will go into the DMV and get it registered as an RV. And sometimes that'll up your chances of getting an RV insurance policy. So this covers the entire value of your van, which is pretty cool. Everything that went into it, all the modifications, all the products and used in your build, anything on the exterior of your van, these can insure a really high value. So that can be a good thing about RV insurance. Some companies will even offer full-time RVer insurance, and these have additional benefits like personal liability, medical payments coverage, loss assessment coverage. So you can look at companies and see if they do offer a full-timer clause. So it's typically, for those Class B camper vans. And so that's a really good thing to look at. Some insurance companies do get weird about it if you live in your van and they won't insure you, unless you have a residence address or another vehicle. So you're just going to have to shop around if you really want RV insurance and figure out what policies are out there that you can use. We also have DIY campervan insurance, and some companies are beginning to offer this. I'll tell you a little story here. This is my Sprinter van, which we completely DIY'd, and I had it on Geico when I first got this van, like the Astro, and that was fine for a little while, but somehow Geico found out that I had been modifying the van. They called me, and they're like, we are going to drop you from our insurance plan, and they said, you have a bed in there, you have windows in there, you've modified the structure. So they were no longer comfortable insuring my van, and that was a big bummer. So what I did was I signed up for State Farm, and that's a company that has been insuring DIY camper vans. They just want to know basically you have a bed in there or a permanent fridge. But my rates were insanely high. It was like $200 or $300 a month. And I signed up for it because I was like, this is my only choice, is to get this insurance. The State Farm did insure the van. I've heard that companies like Progressive will do this, but it was just really expensive. And finally, I signed up for Romy, which I'll tell you about in a little bit, but I highly recommend them for DIY builds. Usually DIY campervan insurance does require you to have, at least a couple components in your van that make it into an RV, like a bed or a fridge. So if you have at least a couple of those, then you'll probably be good to go for one of these insurance policies. You can add on personal articles insurance to this. I did try to do this with State Farm, and they were going to charge me an arm and a leg for it, really expensive. And I just wanted to insure $10,000 worth of gear inside my van and outside, because we do carry around a lot of windsurfing gear and surfboards on the outside of the van. And I just wanted to make sure those things were covered, along with everything we put inside the van, like our very expensive refrigerator, and computer gear and camera gear and stuff like that. So I wanted to do that, but I turned it down because State Farm was just too expensive. And like I was saying, all of this can be very expensive unless you go with Romy, which is a new insurance company out there that's really helping out DIY camper vans like me, which is really exciting. So a few reasons why I chose Romy. So they came on my radar about maybe a year ago, and they were only operational in a few different states. And I was pretty bummed. I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to get my Sprinter van on the Romy account, because I knew that they were very friendly to DIY vans. They don't have very many requirements for you to sign up with them, but they were only in a handful of states, and I was really bummed. But pretty soon after I got that really expensive State Farm quote, I wrote my contact at Romy and I said, are you in South Dakota yet? Please be in South Dakota, because I switched my domicile state to South Dakota, and they were not in that state for a long time. But suddenly he said, yes, we just opened in that state. And I was really excited. And I quickly popped over there, and I became a Romy customer pretty quickly. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience getting insurance with Romy. So, first of all, I went to their website and I got a really free and fast quote online, and I immediately was called. Someone from Romy gave me a call and they asked about my van, and it was a really nice conversation. And they told me what they needed to get my van insured. So, they wanted my receipts and my spreadsheet to determine my van's value. I told them my van I thought was worth about 100,000, and this is a 4x4 Sprinter van, which I purchased for 65,000 brand new, but I figured we'd probably put 30,000 of modifications in it. Yes, I did put a lot of fancy gear in that van and on the van, including the racks, stuff like that. So it came up to be pretty expensive, but I was happy that they insured that entire value of the van, which is just incredible. I also added on personal articles insurance with Romy. I accidentally put $10 here, but it's $10,000 to cover inside and outside of my van. And that only made my premium a tiny bit more expensive. It was really affordable and fantastic. And this was all really, really easy. It was done, in a matter of a couple of days. I had uploaded my receipts to their portal, and it was just such a simple experience. And I really loved working with Romy on insuring my Sprinter van. And really, I think that my monthly premium came out to be only like $60 a month or something, like crazy, crazy cheap. And I ended up paying it 6 months at a time because I think that saved me some money on the premium. But I mean, it went way down compared to what it was with State Farm. And that made me very excited and another benefit to Romy. So if you are looking to insure a DIY camper van, I have a few tips for you that you should keep in mind as you're building out your van. So you need to keep detailed records of your build expenses. I use a spreadsheet divided into different build parts of my van. Like I have a section for the kitchen, a section for the solar system, a section for, the bed design and flares. So I kept it all very organized, and I kept receipts to everything, which is what you should also do. Keep a folder on your desktop or within Google Drive or something. Take a picture of every receipt you get, or download it if you ordered something online and just upload it to that folder. So you're keeping all your receipts handy and what exactly they were for. And like I mentioned before, you can keep this all on a spreadsheet like I do. You can even put links to the images of your receipts or to the file containing your receipts, just for simple organization and the ability to present this to an insurance company when you need to do that. Another tip that I've heard from some van lifers, and I didn't do this, is if you want to go with a company that's more like State Farm or Progressive, maybe you have a local agent in your area that you can actually go into their office and meet with them. That might get you better results than just going through an online form. At least that's what I've heard from some van lifers. So you might want to try that. You can also ask for the roadside assistance or personal articles add-on. I didn't get roadside assistance because I have that through AAA, but that's definitely something that you can get that could be included within your policy. And I have talked a lot about personal articles insurance. So that's often an add-on with insurance companies. So if you have expensive camera gear or computers or any kind of gear in your van, skis or hiking boots or backpacks or surfboards, this will insure all those things, which is a really great add-on to include with your plan. Here's a few companies that I've heard do sometimes insure DIY camper vans, and some of these regularly insure an RV. Getting the RV insurance is way easier. So Romy is the one that I use and that I've talked about a lot in this presentation. I know that some people love Progressive. I know my friend Kristen over at Barefoot Theory gets her custom camper van from Outside Van insured with Progressive, and she's had great experiences with them. State Farm is the one that insured my van. They were pretty expensive for me, but this probably just depends on your van's value and where you live. Also, Foremost will issue some policies for, I think, mostly just RVs and custom builds. And Good Sam is for RVs only, but people love Good Sam. So here's just a few companies that you can try, and just, good luck with it. And I do recommend Romy. So hopefully they'll be in your state. And if they're not in your state now, they will be soon. So just keep checking back and you'll see how that goes. And now I want to bring on Austin from Romy just to give a little bit more information about this insurance company, how it started, and what kinds of vans it can insure. So I'll see you there. All right. So we have Austin here with Romy to discuss a little bit more about what this insurance company offers, which is super exciting. So I told you about my experience using Romy with my van, which was fantastic. But I just wanted to learn more about how Romy started. If you could talk about that a little bit, like how did you start and how long have you been around?
Yeah, absolutely. So Romy actually started as a product within the Outdoorsy platform. So for people that have used Outdoorsy before or thinking about using it, one of the cool things about that platform is that the vast majority of the RVs for rent are individually owned, kind of peer-to-peer, like a traditional Airbnb platform. But as you can imagine, there's a lot more risk renting out an RV than renting somebody's home. There's a lot that can go wrong on the road. So one of the things we did with the Outdoorsy platform initially is we had an insurance product that protected renters when they were renting an RV on the platform, but also protecting the RV that they were renting so that if the renter had an accident, the owner wasn't on the hook for the repairs. So Romy actually started as a insurance product built into the Outdoorsy platform that protected renters and protected the rig they were renting. What we discovered over time is that a lot of people that were renting out their RV had a personal lines insurance policy that didn't allow rentals. So the next evolution of Romy was to create a personal lines product like a Progressive RV policy or a Safeco RV policy that allows our RV owners on our platform to rent out their rig. So they're not breaking the terms and conditions of their policy. They're safe, and they know that they can use their rig as a source of income when they're not using it themselves for personal use.
Very cool. Yeah, that's really helpful for people who want to make that extra money renting out a van or an RV. But then you expanded to where you're insuring a huge variety of vehicles, including DIY camper vans, which are really hard to insure. So tell me about the evolution to covering vans and other types of rigs.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, the van life space has really taken off over the last decade. In terms of vehicles that are rented on the Outdoorsy platform, we've got everything from Class A's to towables to toter homes. But the area we see a lot of interest and a lot of success and really high reviews just all around are for these camper vans, whether it's a old VW Westphalia or a brand new Mercedes Sprinter or Revel, right? So what we found is that there's a ton of interest in those types of vans. And we wanted to make sure that individuals that have those types of units were taken care of. Most traditional companies weren't really interested in insuring a van like that, especially DIY builds. So we wanted to, whereas most people historically had to insure those on a commercial auto policy or just a traditional auto policy, that's not a great way to do it because it doesn't typically cover the internal build, which, as you know, that's where most of your money and sweat and tears goes into when you're building out that rig. So when we created Romy, we wanted to make sure that we also provided policies for people that had these camper vans, whether it was a DIY build or a professional upfit. And we were really kind of the first people in the space to do that. And as of now, that's one of the most common types of RVs that we insure are camper vans.
Yeah, and why has it been so hard historically to insure a DIY van? I know people have trouble with this left and right. So do you know why it's so hard?
Well, I think, traditional insurance companies, especially the Progressives and Safecos and some of those common names, most of their money is in the home and auto insurance side, right? This is kind of a new phenomenon aside from some of the old VWs and old E350s. Camper vans are kind of a newer thing, I would say, in the industry. So there's a lot of variance between, especially in the DIY side, every build is a little bit different. And insurance companies, they see that inherently as risk, right? If they don't know a ton about these RVs or camper vans, how do they know how to price premiums? It's just inherently a little bit more risky. One of the things that's cool about Romy is through our relationship with Outdoorsy, we've always managed our claims and servicing department in-house. So as you can imagine, when we've done thousands and thousands of rentals, we've seen these vehicles get in accidents. We know what it costs to repair these rigs, and we know what that process looks like. So we have a really unique understanding of price risk specifically for these types of vehicles. We know these people need coverage. So we were able to create a product that offers kind of a more specialty type of coverage for these rigs. Let's be honest, they are RVs, right? Like you've got an internal build, a dwelling, a stovetop. So we felt like we had a good enough understanding of price risk where we could provide coverage for these types of rigs. As an RV, we wanted to make sure that we insured the internal build as well. But we felt we had enough data to do it.
Yeah, very cool. And so if someone does want to sign up with Romy and they have a self-built camper van, do they need to have certain components inside that van to insure with you guys?
Yeah, so you are seeing some other companies that are starting to insure camper vans, but they typically have really strict requirements in order to do that. We try to keep it as simple as possible. So we really only require one of three main things. You need a dwelling, first of all, so a bed or something in the back. And then you need one of the following three, which is a semi-permanent stovetop, a semi-permanent toilet, or a semi-permanent fridge. And what I mean by semi-permanent, as long as it's not freely moving in the back of the vehicle and it straps or bolts down, we consider that semi-permanent. So if you've got a bed and a stovetop, we can insure it as an RV. If you've just got a fridge and a bed, we can do that too. So really we try to keep it as simple as possible. And then in terms of requirements, we just ask that you've got a build out sheet if it's a DIY build. So a list of components that went into the build and their pricing. And then at that point, we can insure it at actual cash value based on kind of those the pricing that you show that went into the build.
Yeah, and that's amazing. You only need one of the components because sometimes it's hard for people to have a permanent stove, a permanent toilet, and a permanent fridge because we know how big vans are. I mean, they're not very big. Yeah, so that makes your policy more accessible to a lot more people, I think. Have you been finding that as well?
Definitely. Like I mentioned, camper vans are a huge part of what we're insuring currently. So there's definitely a need out there, and we make it easier based on the feedback that we've heard so far, especially in markets like California and Texas, where insurance can sometimes be tougher to get anyway. And then also we are live in areas like South Dakota, where the domicile laws there and the nomadic residency is a great thing for camper van owners that are living full time in their van. So we definitely try to cater to these folks to provide a solution that's easy and straightforward.
Yeah, and how many states are you in now? I know this is constantly evolving, but you've really been expanding a lot. So tell me about your expansion.
Yeah, the past 2 weeks have seen us go live in Washington as well as New Mexico and Iowa now. So I believe the total count, and I'll have to double check, you're right, it changes all the time, but I think we're writing business now in 29 states. So we still have some filings that we are pending in states. Arkansas, Louisiana, New York, Kentucky, Florida, and we're going to be filing in more states next year, especially on the East Coast. So our goal is to be live and insuring, RVs in all 50 states before the end of next year. As you can imagine, with insurance regulations in general, there's always hurdles to go over. But we've really expanded a lot over the past year. We pretty much cover the whole West Coast now. From Utah, Arizona, Idaho, Montana, and every state west. We've got Utah and Colorado, which are big van life states, Arizona and Oklahoma in the Southwest. And then we also do a lot in the Southeast from Alabama to the Carolinas, as well as the Midwest from Minnesota to Pennsylvania and down to Missouri. So our coverage is expanding, and we're going to continue to make sure it expands going forward because we want to be able to provide a solution for all RVers out there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And are you noticing more people renting out with Outdoorsy now that they have this insurance option that makes it legal?
For sure, right? It's safer. And what's cool too is with Romy, if you list out your RV on Outdoorsy for rent, you automatically get the Outdoorsy discount in year one, which can provide up to a 10% discount on your insurance premiums, which is pretty significant, right? What's cool too is the more you rent out your RV on Outdoorsy in year one, that's going to unlock additional discounts in year two through our rent and save program. And the reason is we know that we have the episodic product, right? When someone rents out your RV on Outdoorsy, that insurance they purchase as part of their booking is protecting them. So that's less coverage that we have to provide on our personal lines product. So we want to make sure that we're passing those savings on back to the customer and making it easy for them to make money on that RV when they're not using it.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I liked about your policy is you can insure your personal belongings. If you could tell me a little bit about that, because one company quoted me, so much money to do that, but Romy did it at an affordable rate. So yeah, so
Yeah,
tell me about that.
we've got a lot of popular endorsements and things that you can add to your policy. Personal contents is definitely one that's super important for people that are living in their RV full time, or more than just a couple months out of the year. That's been super valuable and something we definitely see a lot of people adding to their policy. And we like to think it's a pretty cost-effective policy, right? A couple of the other really popular endorsements for RVers that we offer too, that a lot of people will tack onto their policy, are roof replacement. So if, wear and tear for your roof, that's something that's a huge issue for RVers, especially with larger rigs. We offer an endorsement for that. And also pest protection. I'm sure you've seen, especially in some of the larger rigs too, mice can get in there, chew up the electrical components, bugs, all sorts of pests and rodents. So, we offer endorsements for that as well, that'll offer you protection in the event that, a critter were to get in the rig and start messing things up.
Very cool. It's such a neat idea. I love Romy, and I see people talking about it in Facebook groups and van life. So it's really growing a lot. So I think that's very positive for the van community. So people can just easily get a free quote with you guys, right?
Yeah, it's pretty quick and easy. If you just go to romy.com, you can start a quote there. We've got a really simple digital flow. We're just going to ask you some information about your rig. We're going to ask you some information around yourself. And then based on kind of what kind of rig you have, we'll have an agent give you a call. Or if it's just kind of a traditional RV, a lot of times you won't even need to talk to an agent. So we have agents standing by, ready to help you out. They're super knowledgeable. They make it quick and easy and can answer any questions you have. And then we take payment via credit card to keep it as simple as possible. And we offer a couple different payment plans too. So whether you want to pay all for it or for a year's coverage all at once and get that paid in full discount, you can do that. Or we have plans for monthly payments, quarterly payments, or semi-annual payments as well.
Very cool. Well, anything else you wanted to tell people about Romy?
Yeah, I mean, we're growing like crazy. We love the van life community as well, and we see them being a huge future part of our growth. And we want to make sure that we're providing policies that offer them protection at affordable rates. But even beyond just van lifers and camper van owners, even if you just have a traditional Class C or a Class A or a fifth wheel or a tow behind travel trailer, Romy can be a great solution for those types of folks as well. We want to be inclusive of all RVers. We see a lot of success working with people from the Outdoorsy platform because we enable people to rent out their RV. But we really want to just be a great solution for everyone. And choice is important in a space that is still growing like the RV and camper van industry is. So we're really excited to be working with you, Kristen, and appreciate all the feedback and work you've done with us. And we're excited to keep growing alongside you going forward.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Van Life Summit, and hopefully a lot of people out there will sign up. I highly recommend Romy. Great experience. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it.